Hello, this is Pigsy doing a video. Now it's quite an interesting discovery. So working with people that have dementia, memory problems, maybe they're old and vulnerable, but there's something they tend to do. It's a common theme is they say they want to go home, or they mention their mum. And I think, well, why would you mention your mum? And why do you be so interested in going home if you already are home? Because watching one of these TED Talks, it talks about how people sometimes talk in symbols, and what they're actually saying is something different. And what they actually mean is something different to what they're actually saying. It's what you call crystallised knowledge. So if you remembered something quite small, condensed, then that meaning can expand into other things, and you can just apply it like a formula, and that's in this sort of language, how it's constructed, even the words. And then we kind of take things for granted because we're doing them all the time and we're not thinking about them, or they don't come up in conversation, like how things are constructed. So getting back to the theme of mum, it's what the archetype of mum means to that person. And it might be comfort, support, it may be a source of wisdom, maybe they're looking for answers in themselves, and they're reflecting upon that love. They need to be nurtured. Maybe it's anxiety. They are telling you that there's whatever their mum would bring to them in their life is what they need, so they're calling out to it. It's a bit like when somebody dies or whatever, they might call out to their mother. Yeah, that can always be quite hard. So what does the house mean? Now, in psychological terms, the house, basically, the house is sometimes a reflection of the order of your mind. This is where we're going to hit in some of the Trinity as well. And it's a masculine symbol. Foundation, protection, security. This is where you store things. So from also a MGTOW perspective, what the values of what the home represents are maybe also important aspects of what somebody may look in a person for, or the aspects you might improve in yourself. So if you improve your living environment, you improve your mental environment. You basically, it lays down the foundations or the structure to it. Why? Well, the female architecture would be to add meaning and value to it inside it. How, sometimes, there's some things that seem sexist, but maybe they're actually some type of archetypal value in there, like, women being in the home and stuff like that, because they actually bring it to life, and stuff. And also it's a containment, so it also acts as a bit of a prison. So there's the negative side of it, but in archetypal structures, there's a positive and there's a negative. It's a bit like I had a conversation with my mum, because I said about going towards, basically look for love, kindness, nurture from your mum. Men learn to love from their mothers. They might do from their fathers as well, I guess. But it might represent something else. So it might give a structure of, say, romance for a guy, because usually a guy may undergo some type of a ritual. But it's in the environment. Like he buys roses and brings it to the house to give to the woman. It's a different thing. Well, however, the woman may transform themselves. They may put some effort into their appearance. They may wear things that kind of enhance what they are. So, sometimes there's a reference to men being like bees and women like flowers or something, sort of drawn to them, and their divine beauty and stuff like that. And then there's a reverse of that. Sometimes we see women as bees because they're so busy. So it's all a bit of a mixture there. So it's quite important. The archetypal for the man is the house. So the house of God. God is house, or God is man. because he's the house in that reference. It's a bit like people say we're working for the greater good when we're really working for the greater God. I was wondering why people forgive things in their life, and it's because, I mean, it's basically at a lower level, it's petty. You know, like somebody had done me wrong. Should I hold a grudge? I mean, sure, I can be looking for penance from them. So in some way, I'm looking for a payback, but I don't need to hold on to something that's going to hold me back. And doing it for what I'd say the greater good or the greater God is that it serves an interest higher than myself, and so I place that above myself, and in return it raises me up to meet it. It's why I gaze at the stars, because I see a part of them in me, but I also wish to sort of raise my consciousness to that level. And I guess they know it in some ways. You look at a star, it seems to twinkle a hell of a lot more when you look at it than when you don't. And that could be to do with light, that could be to do with all sorts of things. However, the cause and the effect seem to be there present. I was thinking, it's like it's putting on a bit of a light show. I was thinking, ooh. So basically the transformation of your home could influence the masculine side of yourself, by the transformation of yourself in the divine feminine or nature, the nature of yourself, see? Nature, mature, all these things, the turning and changing of yourself. And that brings me to the last one, which is probably, who am I? Now, I don't often hear anyone say, who am I? But that would be the last bit of the Trinity, the transmutable part of yourself, which could be either male or female. So yeah, good park here. Think of where to park while wrecking the car. So that's also interesting. Who am I? And that's the thing we ask each morning. You wake up and you think, you might think, where am I? Who am I? You don't say, where's my mother? But you might look for some sort of comfort in the morning as well. So I guess these are foundations that are deep in the psyche, and it's just making sense. But they're just common themes that people bring up. I mean, there's no stimulus for them, and sometimes to expand on that. So understanding that's like for dealing with psychology or dealing with people that are anxious and they want to go home. I want to go home. Because sometimes actually the home is the environment in your mind as well. It's a reflection of that. And so if they don't feel quite right in themselves, they don't feel at home. They might actually know they are at home, but something doesn't feel right around the environment, which is actually an internal reflection of not being able to think straight and thinking, oh, I don't really recognise some of this stuff in here. So they don't recognise aspects of themselves, and that's that kind of reflective analysis. And it's like the mother, maybe they're seeing the comfort or the relaxation in themselves as well. They might be seeing aspects of the feminine, divine feminine in themselves, as well as trying to make sense of the divine masculine. I think I nearly touched upon is that from my mother's experience, that her mother wasn't a go-to for emotional support. However, a nan was. So my mum had two archetypes. One was a dark feminine, basically your authoritarian, but in the female form, and her nan, who was the nurturer. So in that situation, she might ask, "Where's Nan?" Or she might think of them. She thinks of a nan as mother, to be honest, what she said, and that's probably quite true for a lot of people that have grown up in maybe different family environments. The archetype has been formed of that. It's just that the only problem is with something like that, there could be a level of corruption, because then are they the true archetype, or there's just a representation of it? It's far more complicated. Anyway, this is Peter signing off from this video. Have a great day and speak to you, mate.